powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you this hour by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Mike Gill, Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast is here. We are 1 week and 1 day before the start of Eagles training camp. There are some training camps that open this week, Dallas and Pittsburgh among them. The Eagles will get started on Tuesday the 27th. So Eagles football is essentially back, Moch. It's essentially back.
Essentially it is, but not yet. We're almost there. The bigger surprise to me is that there are some teams that get their rookies to show up earlier. I think the Jaguars, for example, are having their rookies show up a couple of days before veterans. And I don't know if that was an opportunity any team could have had. You would think that the Eagles, would have tried to jump on that kind of an opportunity if it was there. But I'm not sure why there's a discrepancy. Why Eagles rookies and vets are reporting on the same times. Yeah, Jags rookies show up tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see why the Eagles wouldn't take advantage of that, considering Devonta Smith would be nice to get out there early and see some early reps there. What about we're a week away? You anticipate Zach Ertz rolling into training camp on Tuesday?
Well, if I'm him, I do. I don't want to incur any fines. And I want to force the team's hand, as we've talked about before. If I'm the Eagles and I don't plan on Zach Ertz being, on my team this year, I can't get him hurt. I can't risk that. So if he shows up, then what do I do with Zach Ertz? Do I just politely tell him to work out on the side? I'm sure he'd be fine with that, not having to do a rigorous training camp. But it's just kind of a bad look all around. So you'd like to think that – I do think that there will be – movement. Like today, I think the Steelers signed Melvin Ingram, correct? The pass rusher.
I did see they were talking to him. I don't know that it's official.
Oh, okay. Well, I do think you're going to see some of those last-minute moves made. Yeah, it looks like the Steelers are going to sign.
It just happened
Melvin
around
Ingram.
4 o'clock.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I think you're going to see a few things happen in the next 5-6 days before camps open, and it would not surprise me if something happened Eagles related, just because of we know that the Zach Ertz situation's out there. Steven Nelson's still a free agent, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, those are the two things, I guess, between now and Tuesday to keep your eye on is, do they bring another corner in before the start of camp, and does Howie Roseman pick up the phone and, I don't know, does he cave and say, we're just going to give Ertz away? Are they better off just giving him away? Or are they better off just keeping him?
Oh, that's a tough question, right? Because you're asking if, without the knowledge of if a tight end is going to get hurt in the first week or two of training camp, that opens up the door for a potential trade where you can get maybe what you're looking for, a third or a fourth or something like that right now. I do think there's some benefits to just doing it now. Getting, I think the benefit is relieving the $8.5 million in salary more so than when you're going to get in return for Zach Ertz. But obviously Howie Roseman sees this differently. He still thinks he can get value that's better than what is out there.
Well, how big of a factor is shedding the $8.5 million in relating to bringing in a corner to help this team out? Are they apples and oranges, or are they like parallel where we have to do this if we want to do this?
No, I don't think they have to, because you can always do a contract where you push some money down the road, right? But if you're 8.5 more under and you can give the person that you're signing more money this year, you don't have to worry about having dead cap space for a player who might not be on your team in year 2 and year 3. Or if you just have the $8.5 million, leave the Steven Nelson part about it. In the NFL, the more space you have and you can carry over to the next year, gives you that space next year. You get that extra money that you carry over in cap space. And certainly the Eagles may want to have carryover cap space, because there may be some contracts that they're paying for next year of guys who are not going to be on the team. They're doing that already this year. We know that with Wentz, with Alshon, with Deshaun, but they restructured so many contracts of guys who are, over 29, over 30 years old. and now they kind of have to cross their fingers that these guys are good enough to be on the team next year.
Yeah, I know. You take a look at what they have at corner. We've well documented. We've talked a lot about. You wonder, we talked on Friday's show about Drake Kirkpatrick, and you wonder, he's a free agent. Another guy, would he be somebody? Hey, Steven Nelson's too expensive. Do they just bring a guy in just to bring him in, or at that point do they just stick with what they have?
Yeah, that will probably be a decision that's not independent to just Howie Roseman, but the coaching. After that point, what you'll probably do is have a couple of weeks of camp, see what you got. I don't think anybody's worried about losing out on a Drake Kirkpatrick by that point. So you see what you got. You see if you feel like somebody has really stepped up and can handle the load that's being asked of them, and if you can get by. And if not, if you feel like you're in dire straits, then you re-engage those conversations.
I'm interested because, as you guys wrote about, there's competition at linebacker and secondary. Do they start the camp off and let those guys battle it off, see if there's someone that kind of grabs the bull by the horns before they bring a guy in? Or is it disheartening to see, man, we thought we had the shot, and then you brought this veteran in and it kind of deflated us? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think from a team standpoint they're going to be disappointed if they bring a veteran in who they think can help them out. But Adam and I had a fun debate, and I think it's really interesting to not a debate, but it's almost like a game show. So when they open up on the 27th, if Steven Nelson or Drake Kirkpatrick if they don't have a veteran corner, right? Who gets the first rep or reps opposite Darius Slay at outside corner? Who would it be? I mean, literally, is it Michael Jacquet? Is it Craig James? Is it the rookie Zach McPherson? I think people would like to see it be Zach McPherson, but
only because he's the only guy you don't know anything about.
Exactly. They don't traditionally hand a fourth-round pick the first shot to run with the first team, especially when you've got some guys who've been on the team already. Is it Josiah Scott? I doubt that. But it's a fascinating question because there's no great answer, and it'd be very interesting to see who the coaches would go with.
Well, and as you guys talked about on Thursday's edition of the Inside the Birds podcast, the areas on defense, corner, forget. The defensive tackles. We know you have Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, but what if one of those guys get hurt? Or, as we've saw in the past, now we don't know that that's going to be the same with Jim Schwartz, are they going to rotate those guys a lot, or are Fletcher and Javon going to get 80% of those snaps?
Yeah, I can't imagine that, especially with Fletcher Cox. You're trying to keep him productive and keep those snap counts down. They're not deep at defensive tackle the way they've been in years past. There's no question about it. I think you can also say that a little bit about defensive end, only because they're not, you've got Brandon and Derek Barnett as starters, but Barnett is an iffy starter at best. I mean, he's okay when he's healthy, but he's, injured a lot. And then if he gets hurt, then Josh Sweat is not a guy ideally you want to start. You want him to be a situational rusher. And of course, Ryan Kerrigan's going to come in, and that's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Gives you 4 guys, but they've been 5 or 6 deep at times at defensive end over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so we saw a lot of rotation. We saw a lot of rotation over the Schwartz era.
Exactly. So you're not as deep as you have once been at D tackle, not at the end. You're certainly not deep in talent at linebacker. You're not deep at that second cornerback spot. And honestly, at safety, you're not deep either. You've got McLeod, and I assume he'll be back, but I don't want to make any assumptions. I have no idea. But even if he's back, all right, so your starters are Rodden McLeod and Anthony Harris. Let's say one of them gets hurt, just misses a game or two. Now you're starting Kevon Wallace and the other guy, right? And then your third safety, you're getting into Marcus Epps territory, and the guy that they signed as a free agent, Anthony Adams. They didn't really address safety very much in the draft, and they haven't for quite a while, other than Kevon Wallace. So this is why I try to say, people, and you hear it, Mike, too. You'll hear some people going, man, the national media really disrespects the Eagles. People think we're going to be bad. Why do they say that? It's not because you're the Philadelphia Eagles and the national media hates the Eagles. They're just looking at the paper, which doesn't always mean anything, but they're noticing that there's an absence of talent compared to other teams on defense, and there's an absence of depth on this team. If you get hit with a few injuries, it's going to be pretty ugly.
Oh, there's no question. And, ESPN put out their future power rankings over the next 3 seasons. The Eagles are 30th in the league, of a 32-team league. So a lot of it is because, hey, you have a lot of older veterans on their way to the end of the line and a lot of younger players who are unproven. They don't have the 25-year-old guys who are ready to help out. A lot of their guys are either young and unproven or old and at the end. That's where you have a gap in the middle of your roster of those guys. Like Dallas Goedert would be one of the few. Derek Barnett is a guy that, unfortunately, you don't know enough about now in his 5th year, right?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the 2017 draft not being a very good draft. The 2018 draft may wind up being pretty good with Goddard, with Avonte Maddox, and I think Jordan Mailata and Sweat were in that draft. But they only took 5 players in that draft. And then I think in 2019 they only took 5 players as well. So it's the sins of not drafting well and not having a lot of draft picks. So they really got to hope that this most recent 2 drafts, right, with Rager, with obviously Jalen Hurts, with Devontae Smith, and some of the guys that they've brought in here grow up very quickly.
Yeah, well, they need to, I would now in your mind, Moshe, is Barnett. Do you have a definitive answer on what Derek Barnett is in your mind?
So when healthy, when he plays 16 games, I feel like
has that happened yet?
Yeah, I know. I feel like he's a guy whose upside is probably going to be 8.5 to 9.5 sacks. I mean, I think on his best day, he can kind of be like Brandon Graham. He started to show you something last year as a run stopper. I thought he was pretty good against the run at times last year. And, he's got some good bend as a pass rusher. He's just not explosive. He's not cat-like. He's not Von Miller. He's just a good technician of a defensive end. So that's really all I think that you're going to get, though. When you get if you're getting the best Derek Barnett, I think you're getting like 8.5 sacks to 9 at most, a couple tackles for a loss, some pretty decent run defense, but nothing like out of the Pro Bowl, level or anything like that.
Which, I mean, at 14, I don't know that you're anticipating a Pro Bowler, but
correct.
You did, you're getting a guy that I think is kind of underwhelmed. He has had flashes, not enough. But, and then you flip over to a guy like Dallas Goedert, and you wonder what's the ceiling for him. These are the guys they need more from, the Dallas Goederts, the Derek Barnetts. I mean, I guess you would say Dillard or Mailata, one of those guys has to turn into, a starting solid player for you.
Yeah, it would really help if Avonte Maddox was a really good slot corner where, he'll probably be there this year. At times, I still think the best he's ever played as an Eagle was when he had to move to safety his rookie year and played it there. And maybe there's some of that in his future. We'll see. I don't know. But, yeah, he's another player that he's a 4th-round pick, and it would be nice to get a good complimentary, role from him.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned Kayvon Wallace, too. He's a 4th-rounder. Can he exceed expectations in the event that McLeod can't play? Can he step in and you say, hey, we filled that with one of our draft choices? That is where this team, I think, when you look at why are you ranked 30th in terms of your future rankings, is there's so many unknowns with the younger guys. Alex Singleton, he's not a draft pick, but he's a guy that produced for them last year. Can he do that again?
He is a guy who produced for them, but I don't know that this scheme, and we have a lot to find out about the scheme and how it fits certain guys. We know Eric Wilson is very likely to be a start because he came from Minnesota. He knows the defense. He covers well, doesn't tackle great. They want to be in nickel as much as possible. So he'll be an important part of that nickel coverage linebacker position. Singleton is a guy, I mean, do they trust his coverage enough to make him the other nickel linebacker? Do they like him against the run so he's a base linebacker, which you're not in too much? Or is that TJ Edwards' role? I don't know how Alex Singleton fits because I really haven't seen the scheme implemented yet. So it's hard to really make any kind of commentary. But you know that what he showed you last year, Mike, is that he's probably going to be on the team and they'll probably find a role for him.
I would think so. And, because there's not a lot of guys there, but you would think that they're better at that spot than they were a year ago. It's a big sigh.
Let's see. A year ago, well, yeah, because Nate Gary was playing.
Nate Gary
a lot
playing there.
Yeah. I would say that. I don't know that they're that much better, but they're better.
I mean, Singleton was at least a respectable player last year. I mean, when he was out there, you weren't like Gary. They just picked on. It was like what Gary was 49, right? Was that his jersey number? Where's 49 at? Let's go right at him. Singleton, not he wasn't the same in that vein. And Wilson, obviously, we think is going to be a big upgrade over anybody else they had last year.
Yeah, he'll be an upgrade over what they had. It's not still the type of linebacker and secondary that's going to make, any of the first 5 or 6 quarterbacks they face be worried about where to throw the ball. First you start off with Matt Bryan. You got Dak Prescott by week 3. You got Mahomes by week 4. You got Brady in week 6. I think you got a Justin Herbert in there somewhere. It's just, they're Jonathan Gannon's going to look. I think he has a chance to show early on how good of a defensive coordinator he's kind of rumored to be.
Yep.
But he's not a miracle worker either. So he's only working with what he has.
Right. And the gaping hole that they have at that corner spot is just looms so large over everything. Like if I said if they got a player like a Steven Nelson at that spot, how much does that change the outlook for the season? I don't know, but you go in knowing that you almost have no shot with who's over there now.
I wonder if there'll be a game prop week 1 on how many targets the cornerback number 2 for the Eagles will see in game 1 from Matt Ryan, because it's going to be double digits. I mean, they are going to throw, even if it's Steven Nelson, who's or Drake or Patrick. It doesn't matter. It's not Darius Slay, and it's not going to be a very difficult secondary to throw against, perceivably. So that guy, cornerback number 2, is going to see a lot of throw balls coming his way.
No, you're right. And we mentioned in the conversation earlier, too, what do they do at that 3rd, 4th defensive tackle spot? Because those 2 guys are both rookies, we think, at that spot. Or do you go with a Hassan Ridgeway? We'll see. I'm very interested to see, you get the 3rd-round pick, Williams, you get the 6th-round pick. Do they get more playing time, or do they go with the veteran players in that spot? So there's another very, starting Tuesday, I'll have my eye on what happens in there.
Yeah, no, I think, and listen, new coaches will like to get their guys on the field. We know that. New regimes. So you're looking at Milton Williams, and you're looking at even the 6th-rounder, Marlon Tuipulotu, and thinking, you know what? They're going to want to get those guys some snaps, some reps, see what they got. And they also know by doing that, you're putting some inexperience on the field. So you trade one for the other, and that's why you tend to think that there'll be some growing pains for the defense for the sake of getting better in the long run.
I feel like we've talked a lot about the defense here. Do you anticipate – now, let me ask you. I don't know if I got a chance to talk to you about the Deshaun Watson stuff yet. That happened, I guess, Thursday. You were on Wednesday. Everybody's connecting the dots there. But my question for Adam on Friday was, hypothetically, they make a deal for Deshaun Watson. How much does that change their outlook for this season?
You'd have to tell me first. I'm sure Adam may have brought this up too. They're dealing for him, but is he suspended? It's hard to believe he's not going to be suspended in some form or fashion by the NFL. Ben Roethlisberger, Zeke Elliott, neither of these guys were charged with anything officially from a police or law and order standpoint, but they were both suspended. And I have a feeling the same thing will happen with Deshaun Watson. So you're talking about 6 to 8 games, perhaps. So I would say no, that even if the Eagles were to acquire him prior to the suspension, that it's not going to have much of an impact on their 2021 season.
Now, everybody just connecting the dots. Valid or just connecting the dots in July?
The interest in Deshaun Watson?
Yes. I mean, because there are people that are just, hey, the Eagles are always involved in stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're an Inside the Birds listener. We've been talking for quite a while, since before the allegations came out against Deshaun Watson, that if available and if he was going to have a divorce from the Texans, that the Eagles would be interested and have interest. That's all we can say, and I think it was out there. Someone said they've got the most draft compensation to be able to make a move for him. That's not breaking news, right? I mean, you look at the other teams that might want a quarterback, whether it's Miami, although they have Tua, or another team. No teams got stocked up on draft capital like the Eagles over the last 8 to 12 months.
Correct.
So,
and the Eagles are in the NFC.
Good dot connecting and rational dot connecting.
The Eagles are in the NFC. Miami's in the AFC. So that could tilt towards your direction if they have some kind of offer as well. All right. Well, it all starts Tuesday, and we will see. Zach Ertz is still here. There is no other corner still to this day. They have a week and a day to maybe rectify both of those issues. Anything else they need to rectify by then, or are we comfortable with the rest of how this roster sits?
I think, we've talked a little bit about maybe having a veteran wide receiver to kind of just be a veteran in the room, because it's still a pretty young wide receiver room, but I don't know that guy is out there and that it's worth bringing in. I probably would have taken a flyer on Josh Doxson, just not because he's a veteran, but because he's a former first rounder. He's got some size, natural X type guy, and why not? If he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. No money. But I don't know if he signed with anybody or if he's still out there, but he's somebody I might consider just to bring into camp.
All right, Geoff Mosher and the Inside the Birds podcast. It dropped this morning. You guys had some fun reflection on your careers in there.
Yeah, we promised. A lot of our listeners have asked us to do this because we drop a couple of stories every once in a while. And we said, we'll just do an entire podcast deep into the summer on some of our, bloopers as journalists, some of the funniest things we've witnessed coming up through the ranks, and some of our more embarrassing moments. So we did like a little bloopers
it was fun
podcast. It was good. It was I enjoyed it.
Yeah, check that out over at the Inside the Birds wherever you listen to your podcasts, or you can go to InsideTheBirds.com and check out all their stuff over there. But the one today was pretty fun. It kind of gives you a little reflection on some of the things they've done along the way to get to where they are. The Inside the Birds guys, Geoff Mosher, Andrew DeCecco, Adam Kaplan. DeCecco's here tomorrow. We will preview the NFC North. And then on Friday with Andrew, we will do the East. And then Tuesday when Andrew's back, we will be the start of training camp. All right. Moshe, good to see you, man.
You got it, Mike. Talk to you soon.
All right, Geoff Mosher and the Inside the Birds podcast, powered Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.